Anthony Edward Bido, also known as Tony and Masoki, of Belmont, Carriacou, who resided in Lamode, St. Patrick, passed away on Sunday, 25th September, at the age of 55. He was the father of Antonia, also known as Tonya, Shanta, Tyler, Karen, Kendon, Nevon, and Kerry. Grandfather of Skylar, Caden, Kyle, Kylie, and baby Mike. Brother of Ranali, also known as Nai. Paul, also known as Faithman. Emil, also known as Papa. Amelia, also known as Mama. And Lincoln Raymond in Carriacou. Sarah, Myrtle, and Gemma in the USA. Naomi and Debbie in Canada. Ricardo, also known as Cado. Edward, Ricky Bido, and teacher Jennifer Smith in Grenada. Nephew of Fatina Alexander, Lenny Bido and Miss B. Uncle of Wilmot and Teresa Lowell. Otis Gay, Neil Bido, Flora, Kenrick, Mickey, Toria, Shanna, Jason, PJ, Marcus, and Camille. Brother-in-law of Kenley Gay, Godwin Plenty, Oswald Charlie Nicholas, Mary John, Lloyd Francis, and Stephen Otley. Many other relatives and friends including Gloria, Louise, Martin, Indra, Jacqueline, Shamali, Nurse Nellin Perrott, Dan Lee, Abigail, Sherian, Stefan, Joe, Andy, Kania, Sawasop, Joshi, Debido, Plenty, Gay, and John families. Friends and neighbors of Lamode, St. Patrick, Belmont, and Haverlyville, Carriacou. The funeral of the late Anthony Edward Bido of Belmont, Carriacou, who resided at Lamode, St. Patrick, will take place in Grenada on Monday, 24th October at 2 p.m. at the St. Patrick Anglican Church, Sates, and in Carriacou on Thursday, 27th October at 2 p.m. at St. Francis Anglican Church, Carriacou, and entombment will be at the Haverlyville Cemetery. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lockwell Brothers Funeral Home.
Joan Doris Abraham, also known as Auntie Joan of Grand Boy St. John, a past member of the Legion of Mary, Mothers Union, and the Prayer Group, passed away on Monday, October 3rd, 2022, at the age of 101. She was the mother of Carl, Lawrence, and Nordica in the USA, Jacqueline and Gemma in Grenada, adopted mother of Francis and John Abraham in the USA, Ian, Oral, Jimmy and William, also known as Wise, and Gordon Andrew, also known as Jacko in Grenada. Grandmother of 19, great-grandmother of 26, great-great-grandmother of 2, sister of Bernadette Jaffier in the USA, mother-in-law of Merrill Holder, Callista Huggins in St. Vincent, and Patrick Moore, aunt of many including Anne-Marie, Sherwin and Bernard Lorraine, Paul, Lester James and Ann Wilson, Agnes Julian, and Ian Jaffier. Caregivers Dr. Jude and Twine, the nurses and staff of the Grand Roy and Grove Medical Centers. Many cousins, other relatives and close friends including the Abraham, Augustine, Castillo and Balthazar families of Grand Roy, Grove and Concord, Norma Hackett and family, the Moses family of Carriacou, Nurse Kathleen Mitchell, Elaine Moses in the United Kingdom, Rhonda McEwen, Yvette Modest, Jermaine Duncan and family, and members of the Grove Catholic Prayer Group and Mothers Union, the staff and residents of Hillsview Home for the Aged, Grand Case Geriatric Caregivers, and friends and neighbors of Grove, Concord, and Grand Roy. The funeral service for the late Joan Abraham, also known as Auntie Joan of Grand Roy St. John, will take place on Thursday, October 27th at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Christ the King Catholic Church, Grand Roy St. John, and interment will be at the Family Cemetery, Grand Roy. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Honaya Slag of Grandon St. George, who resided in Canada, died on September 23, 2022, at the age of 17. Left to mourner her mother, Jacinta Snag, father, Gary Coutain, sisters Gritcha, Nisha, and Milani, brothers Kimo, Kimani, and Chris, nephews Tyree, Corey, and Cordell, many aunts and uncles in Grenada, Trinidad, Canada, and the USA, aunts Jacqueline, Olga, May, Anne, Joy, Millie, Shelley, Michelle, Jamie, and Dixie. Uncles Kevin, Brent, Vaden, Marlon, Kester, Henry, Raphael, Richard, Benedict, Joseph, Johnny, and Harris. Many cousins and other relatives. Many close friends including Miss Monica Phillip and Mr. Carlton, Miss Jean Woodruff and family, Miss Waveney Nichols, Miss Earlene Bruno, Dexter and Cathy Ann, Miss Andrea Brown, Donna Duncan and family, Brenda LaBarry and family, Jenny Donald, Dr. Beverly Nelson, Miss Grace Williams, Miss Maureen Miller and family, Sabrina Andrews and family, and Miss Indy and Twine and family, Senor Renee and family, Pat Cox and Tia Charles, the Charles family of Mardi Gras, and the Coutain and McIntyre families of Grandance, and Mr. Butler. The funeral of the late Honaya Snag of Grandance St. George, who resided in Canada, will take place on Thursday, October 27th at 2 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Blessed Sacrament Church, and interment will be at the Grandance Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Elizabeth Peters, also known as Jocelyn and Jasso, of Pearl St. Andrew, passed away on Sunday, 18th September 2022, at the age of 89. She was the mother of Anne, also known as Valerie, Terence, Godfrey, and Errol, grandmother of Patricia, Dominic, Hannah, Patrick, Theo, Jordan, Ethan, Elizabeth, Lily, and Lucas, sister of Anita and Elsa, great-grandmother of 5. Many nieces and nephews, including Nicole, Shania, Karen, Suzanne, Hazel, Ozra, Earl, Elroy, and Kenroy, mother-in-law of Judith, Anna, Desiree, and Michael Filbert. Caregivers Miss Leno, Natalie, Maureen, and Connection Care at home. Many other relatives and close friends, including Lydia, Dave and family, Gloria, Trevor and family, Doris and family, Miss Dallow and family, Miss Germaine and family, Earl Abraham and family, the Leslie and Aberdeen families, Helen Parker and family, Miss John and family, Dr. Keith Johnson, Father Emmanuel Coffre, Father Godwin and the Sacred Heart parishioners, the Jeffrey, Dorset, Dunbar, Steele and Batiste families, and friends and neighbours of Pearls and surrounding areas. The funeral of the late Elizabeth Peters, also known as Jocelyn and Jasso, of Pearl St. Andrew, will take place on Thursday, October 27th at 1 p.m. Funeral service will be held at the Sacred Heart Catholic Church, Tivoli St. Andrew, and interment will be at the Moya Churchyard Cemetery. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home.
Prisca Eliza Charles Mitchell of Seaview, Carriacou, former employee of NIS Carriacou branch of Seaview, Carriacou, passed away on Saturday, 15th October, at the age of 56. She was the daughter of Lynette Charles. She was the wife of Junior Mitchell, mother of Keelan Mitchell, brother of Fitzgerald Charles and Denny Rayburn in the USA, Raymond Charles and Yvette James in Carriacou, and Godwin Kwashi in Grenada, sister-in-law of Dolores Simmons and Rhonda Charles in the USA, Lystra Charles and Anselm James in Carriacou, niece of George Charles, Thaddeus and Timothy Bartholomew, Roger Jeremiah in Grenada, and Thomas Charles in Canada, Virginia Wallace and Jean Nelson in the UK, Joyce Rayburn in the USA, Homie Ortiz and Leah Jaffia in Carriacou, aunt of Judy, Regina, Janelle, Cho, Camille, John, Jason, Rayburn, Reginald, and Cordell Charles. Caretakers Beulah Roberts and Shelley Belfont Frank in Grenada. Other relatives and close friends including Charles and Mitchell families, Lawrence, Jaffia, Mackenzie, Guy, James, Rayburn, and Atkins families, the management and staff of NIS Carriacou branch and Grenada, graduating class of 1985, friends and neighbors of Seaview, Bushiju, and surrounding areas too numerous to mention. The funeral of the late Prisca Eliza Charles Mitchell of Seaview, Carriacou, will take place on Friday, 28th October at 10 a.m. Funeral service will be held at Christ the King Anglican Church, Hillsborough, Carriacou, and the interment will be at the Brunswick Cemetery. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lockwell Brothers Funeral Home. Peter Gordon Frederick of Waltham St. Mark passed away on Monday, 3rd October, at the age of 69. He was the husband of Veronica Frederick, father of Otterson Frederick, Andy Prince, Pinky Frederick Narain, Glennis Lester, and Janie Frederick, grandfather of 17, great-grandfather of 1, father-in-law of Delroy Narain and Allion Budd, brother of Eva Frederick, Judith Frederick, Cepius Septimus, and Merle Frederick, Molly Little, nephew of Elizabeth Modest and George Frederick, many nieces, nephews, other relatives and friends in Grenada, USA and the UK, including the Frederick, Fletcher, Ned, Mitchell, Grant, Philip, Patrick, Paul, Narain, McBain and Forsyth families, friends and neighbors of Waltham and surrounding areas. The funeral for the late Peter Gordon Frederick of Waltham St. Mark will take place on Friday, 28 October at 1 p.m. The funeral service will be held at the Victoria RC Church, St. Mark, and the interment will be at the Coast Guard Cemetery. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lockwell Brothers Funeral Home. Oswald Ketu, also known as Uncle of Harveyville, Carriacou, passed away on Saturday, 1st October, at the age of 96. He was the life and partner of Pearl John, adopted father of Gary, brother of Sonny in the UK, uncle of Georgie Field, Louise Henry, Kathleen, Jeffrey and Lloyd Bido, Jean Stanislaus, Lynch, Thomas, Elvin and Vonica, father-in-law of Lucky Lynn Thomas, uncle of Jonathan Stanislaus and Elsia Bido, uncle of 38, godfather of Joy Samuelson and Maria Cloudin, caregivers Georgie Field, Nurse Hamlet, and Astrid Noel, many cousins including Jocelyn and Holy Lindor, Theobald Lambert and Peter St. Louis, other relatives and friends including Caton families, Nurse Hamlet and family, Adams, Gabriel, Quashi, Simon and McIntosh families, doctors and nurses at Princess Royal Smart Hospital, friends and neighbors of Harveyville and surrounding areas too numerous to mention. The funeral of the late Oswald Ketu, also known as Uncle of Harveyville, Carriacou, will take place on Monday, 31st October at 12 noon. Funeral service will be held at the Lockwell Brothers Funeral Chapel, Lauriston, Carriacou, according to Jehovah's Witness rites, and interment will be at the Harveyville Cemetery. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lockwell Brothers Funeral Home. George Colvin Otello Roberts, also known as Cooley and Uncle George, of Guave St. John, who resided at Frequenty St. George and the United Kingdom, passed away on Thursday, 7th July 2022 in the UK at the age of 67. He was the father of Jihad, Junita, Junisha, Kimon Roberts, and Shane White, son of Miriam Bido of Springs, grandfather of Jared, Jasmine, and Juma Roberts, brother of Julia Moore, Elizabeth Bido, Carla Bernard, Sandra and Ruggles Ferguson, uncle of Jalil, Kenaz, Khadija, Kadra, Kendra, Amara, and Keziah Moore, Lois, Sheena, and Kish Welsh, Jonathan and Ethana Bido, Naji and Engels Ferguson, son-in-law of Dorcas Mason, brother-in-law of many including Tamara Ferguson, Anthony Bernard, Gladys Lewis, Agnes Mason, Michael Mason, and Kenneth Moore, father-in-law of Rachel Roberts, cousin of Beverly Hostin, Debbie Code, Tara Gimbridge, Donna and Richard Thomas, Yolande Pierig, Yvonne Snag, Irva Bernardine, Nesta and Eddie Augustine, and Joan Glean, nephew of many including Carlisle Lewis, Nelia Hafaro, Myrtle Thomas, and Julia Noel. Many other relatives and friends including Bentley Leslie, John and Val Pridham, Todd and Richard, the boys by Bigger Shop, Frequenty, DeLewis, Jeffrey, Bido, Parag, Ferguson, Mason, Duncan, Rain, McPhail and Nelson families, friends of Frequenty, the Limes, staff of Gem and Kalinago Beach Resort, and Club Fantasia. The funeral of the late George Colvin or Taylor Roberts of Guelph St. John, who resided at Frequency St. George and the United Kingdom, will take place on Thursday, 3rd November at 1 p.m. The funeral service will be held at Guelph Anglican Church St. John, and the entombment will be at the Douglaston Cemetery. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lockwar Brothers Funeral Home. Helen Egard Mitchell of Corinth St. David passed away on Monday, 17th October, at the age of 75. The funeral for the late Helen Egard Mitchell of Corinth St. David will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lockwar Brothers Funeral Home. Janet Mark, also known as Auntie of Coast Guard, who resided at Fairfield Road, Victoria St. Mark, passed away on Saturday, 21st October, at the age of 71. The funeral arrangement for the late Janet Mark, also known as Auntie of Coast Guard, who resided in Fairfield Road, Victoria St. Mark, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lockwar Brothers Funeral Home. Teresa Thompson of Montfendu St. Patrick passed away on Saturday, 15th October, at the age of 87. The funeral of the late Teresa Thompson of Montfendu St. Patrick will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lockwar Brothers Funeral Home. Winston Modest of Mount Royal Carriacou passed away on Wednesday, 19th October, at the age of 67. The funeral of the late Winston Modest of Mount Royal Carriacou will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lockwar Brothers Funeral Home.
Lister Noel of Prospect St. Patrick passed away on Monday, 17th October 2022, at the age of 30. The funeral arrangements for the late Lister Noel of Prospect St. Patrick will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lockwar Brothers Funeral Home. Nikisha Bathsheba Joseph, also known as Nikki of Concord St. John, passed away on Tuesday, 18th October 2022, at the age of 35. The funeral arrangements for the late Nikisha Bathsheba Joseph, also known as Nikki, of Concord St. John, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lockwar Brothers Funeral Home. Cynthia Venture, also known as Bridget of New Hampshire St. George, who resided in the USA, passed away on Friday, 14th October 2022, at the age of 75. The funeral arrangements for the late Cynthia Venture, also known as Bridget, of New Hampshire St. George, who resided in the USA, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lockwar Brothers Funeral Home. Roy Michael McMillan, also known as Uncle Mac, Kenki and Nuku, of Mamacan St. Andrew, passed away on Tuesday, October 18th, 2022, at the age of 81. The funeral arrangements for the late Roy McMillan, also known as Uncle Mac, Kenki and Nuku, of Mamacan St. Andrew, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lockwar Brothers Funeral Home. Desmond Handel Bowler of Carrier St. Andrew passed away on Thursday, October 13th, 2022, at the age of 61. The funeral arrangements for the late Desmond Handel Bowler of Carrier St. Andrew will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Wayne's Funeral Services. Hermelinda Silver, née Julian, also known as Mom and Love, of Guelph, who resided at Beaton St. David, passed away on Sunday, October 16th, 2022, at the age of 86. The funeral arrangements for the late Hermelinda Silver, née Julian, also known as Mom and Love, of Guelph, who resided at Beaton St. David, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Claude Bullen, also known as Red Eye and Charlie, of Cherry Hill St. George, passed away on Monday, October 17th, 2022, at the age of 67. The funeral arrangements for the late Claude Bullen, also known as Red Eye and Charlie, of Cherry Hill St. George, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home. Claudine and Nicholas of Molyneux St. George passed away on Monday 17th October 2022 at the age of 65. The funeral arrangements for the late Claudine and Nicholas of Molyneux St. George will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home. Naomi Nixon of Montgay St. George passed away on Tuesday 11th October 2022 at the age of 93. The funeral arrangements for the late Naomi Nixon of Montgay St. George will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home.
Sybil Darcy Edgar née Tyson of Moya St. Andrew resided at Paradise St. Andrew, passed away on Tuesday 4th October at the age of 80. The funeral of the late Sybil Darcy Edgar née Tyson of Moya St. Andrew, who resided at Paradise St. Andrew, will be given in a subsequent broadcast. Funeral arrangements have been entrusted to Lacqua Brothers Funeral Home.
In loving memory of Natasha Sylvia Dominic James of Petmotar St. David, who departed this life and went to be with the Lord on October 23rd, 2014. We think of you in silence all the time. You wore many hats and left a distinct mark in the lives of all those you came in contact with. You had a zest for life and a passion for your family. Your presence always made us happy with your burst of laughter. Tash, we miss you dearly. You are always a loving and caring person. A day cannot pass and your name is not mentioned. Your memory lives on. God has you in His keeping, but we will always have you in our hearts. Remembering you is easy. We do it every day. But missing you is heartache that never goes away. Tash, we will unite again when we meet in heaven on that great day. We acknowledge the support given by your husband, Wilkie James, your mom, Sandra Dominic Andrew, Father Michael Bishop, the Dominic, James, Andrew, Bishop, Francis, Louison, Pastor Selwyn Haling and members of the Garden of Prayer Church, the management and staff of the Republic Bank, the staff of the Marischal House University of the West Indies Open Campus, and all other relatives and friends. Tasha, you are greatly missed and will forever be in our hearts. We love you. Funeral arrangements were entrusted to Bailey's Funeral Home.
The management and staff of MTV extend deepest condolences to those of you whose loved ones have passed on. Thank you for watching.
I am Godwill James, an MD and a member of Gateway Assembly. Medically, death is regarded as an end or a cessation of life. Different groups view death in different perspectives. While some regard death as a continuation of life, others view it as an infeeble form of life. As a Christian, we may want to view death as a separation of the soul from the body. So, whichever way one may view death, I want to say that may the gentle soul of the faithful departed rest in the bosom of the Lord. Amen.